What's up, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and none of the above? This is DL returning to you with more KSL Sinnoh Melee content. I know it's been a little while. I started a new job recently, and it's been a lot of hours looking to make some changes in regards to that. So I did not cover some of the later Week 2 games as well as the quarter and semifinals, but I didn't want to leave you all hanging. I have to cover this finals game, and I have not watched it, and I'm very excited for it because these are some of my favorites. I got lots of favorites in the draft community, but these are some really strong battlers I think represent two very important parts of the Kirby Street League community. And so this is going to be a game between AlecG and Hydra. So Alec is bringing the team of Heatran, Cresselia, Cloyster, Mismagius, Umbreon, Rhydon, Manectric, Primeape, and Leafeon, whereas Hydra is bringing the roster of Gyarados, Flygon, Rotom Fan, Fortress, Blissey, Sceptile, Gallade, Skuntank, and Aggron. So usually I've just been going through like a few things about the matchup. Because this is finals, I want to take this very seriously and really look at this and say what I think are the most likely brings and what I would expect from people going into this. So for starters, Hydra's big beast so far in this has definitely been Gyarados. And if we take a look at Alec's team, Alec does not exactly have the best answers for Gyarados. He doesn't have the worst either. Cloyster, high physical defense, is a water resist. Gyarados does not get Power Whip until Generation 8, so not something he's got to have to worry about there. But Leafeon, his grass type, is not great. And there aren't really great Scarfers on Alec's team. Primeape, kind of the only one that's really shown Scarf thus far. Maybe Mismagius with Thunderbolt is likely to come to try to take on Dragon Dance Gyarados. I'd say that seems like a pretty likely counter matchup. Especially since some sort of trick set is probably Mismagius' best bet of dealing with Hydra's Blissey. So yeah, anticipating a Choice Scarf Mismagius with Thunderbolt to try to keep this probably Dragon Dance Gyarados in check, because otherwise the only other option to take care of that is a Choice Scarf Manectric, which seems like a subpar set for that Pokemon. Also, Flygon, definitely a mon has put in a lot of work for Hydra thus far. Flygon, Dragon Ground type. The only Dragon Resist in Generation 4 is Steel. And Heatran is really, really weak to ground moves. Cloyster does bring the option of an Ice Shard to try to keep, Flygon in check from sweeping. But Flygon, I think, is more likely to perform the role of a breaker in this game. There are a few ground immunities in Cresselia and Mismagius with the Levitate ability, and then Leafeon, a very sturdy ground resist. But I could definitely see Hydra using Flygon to try to break down a lot of fat on Alec's team. Really, pretty much spam Outrage for the most part, and just try to chunk everything as much as he can. So yeah, definitely expecting some sort of like potentially choice banded Flygon. I don't see really any reason why he wouldn't opt for that. Let's see, Rotom Fan. Rotom Fan's going to do Rotom Fan things. Alec does have a really sturdy Ghost Resist on his team with Umbreon, but Umbreon also has been very passive, especially without Foul Play existing in Generation 4, especially with the setup that Hydra has on his team. Umbreon could definitely be taken advantage of, although it is worth noting, of course, that Volt Switch doesn't exist either for Rotom Fan to try to take advantage of Umbreon in that sense, with Volt Switching on the predicted Shadow Ball into something like Gyarados. Fortress, it's going to set up hazards. That's what it does. Cloyster certainly can beat Fortress 1v1. And so I think that the hazard game is probably going to favor Alec in this. That Alec, I think, has better hazard setters in this matchup. And his hazard removal, I think, is also easier because I feel like... Actually, the thing about that, though, is that the spin blocker for Alec is Mismagius, of course. So as the ghost type, but Mismagius does not have good physical defense, so it's not a very good spin blocker. And he also has pressure to keep that Choice Scarf Mismagius, I'm expecting, around in order to handle the Gyarados. So that is one reason why the Mismagius, I think, would not be very good at preventing hazard removal from the fortress. So definitely expect yes, a rapid spin fortress in anticipation of that pressure on Mismagius. Blissey, of course, the premier special wall, could be definitely tailored to take on the Mismagius, as well as the Heatran. Though Heatran, because the trapping moves in Gen 4, like Magma Storm, don't do as much damage, like residually. So the Trapper Tran that you see for like breaking stall and stuff in later gens, I don't think it would be as effective for taking on something like the Blissey. And yeah, otherwise he doesn't have Hydra doesn't really have great fire resists on his team. We're looking at Flygon and Gyarados. Don't really want to be switching in on Heatran, especially when Gyarados has been Hydra's main win condition. And Flygon does have some pressure on it to do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of breaking in this game. But I think we are kind of overlooking Gallade when I say that, because Gallade has been an MVP for Hydra as well. And Cresselia is one of the bulkiest psychic types you're going to see, so that might stop Gallade's Reign of Terror. But I don't have any doubt in my mind that Hydra is going to bring a Sword Stance set and try to hit Cresselia as hard as he possibly can, because that's what's going to open up the avenue for the Gyarados sweep that he seems to be going for every single game. I don't really see much of a reason for him to bring Skuntank unless, except for the purpose of pursuit trapping the Mismagius, which, as you mentioned, is one of the main ways that Alec could look to counteract the Gyarados sweep. So yeah, Skuntank, I think if it comes, it's for the purpose of pursuit trapping this Mismagius, and will be towards the goal, the win condition of Gyarados sweeping at the end. And Aggron, he's used this as a suicide lead. He could certainly do that again. In terms of the scary things for Alec, we already mentioned how Heatran, very scary offensively this matchup, especially if it wants to bring something like an Explosion to try to bait in Blissey as the special wall. Cresselia, very important for taking on a lot of the physical breakers on this team. Definitely expecting physically defensive Gallade. That is one of the downsides of Hydra's draft, is it's fairly physically biased. The main special mons being like Rotom Fan and Sceptile. Sceptile actually has a pretty solid type matchup in this matchup. Able to be like mixed with Earthquake to try to take on Heatran. And Grass is pretty spammable against the rest of the team, so yeah, Sceptile actually quite good here. Also the fastest Pokemon here in terms of base speed. So yeah, a lot of very scary things for Hydra. I think Hydra definitely wants to go offensive in this game. And Alec, I think, is definitely going to be more on the balance side, potentially even like semi-stallish, because I think he wants as many potential roadblocks to the Gyarados sweep as possible. Leafeon, I do think, is likely because it is really good against both the Gyarados and Flygon, so I think that's definitely a likely bring for him. Also matches up decently against the Rotom Fan, so that's all of Hydra's top mons right there. Yeah, Mismagius, I think, very important. Cloyster hazard removal is going to be pretty key to try to prevent everything from getting chipped into Gyarados range. So yeah, for Alec, definitely expecting these 4 to come: Heatran, Crest, Cloyster, Mismagius. And I expect Leafeon, and then one of these 4 as well. Not sure which one it would be. I don't think Rhydon really has a place in this matchup. And I don't think Primeape does too much for him. There's some really good fighting resists on this team, and its speed tier doesn't really do anything. Even as a Scarfer, I don't think it effectively revenge kills the things that he would want to from that role in this build. So I don't think Primeape's coming. So I'd expect Manectric or Umbreon to come as the other slot. In terms of Alec's game plan, I mean, Heatran's got to break things down, and I think he's got to try to clean with a Mismagius, or yeah, that's really his only main win con, I think, here. Potentially Manectric can do a lot of work as well if the Blissey is removed, because it does carry some really nice coverage for the Fortress with Flamethrower, so that's quite nice. So one of these like special fast guys, it's going to be the way that Alec tries to clean house. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's begin in the game. So on the left side here we have Alec, and on the right we have Hydra. You can see the Mismagius lead versus the Fortress, so did expect both of these to come. I predict Alec's either going to trick here or potentially switch. So yeah, he switches into the Heatran on the T-Spikes. And there's the Blissey, as he does reveal Magma Storm. So, as I mentioned, the Blissey likely to come as the special wall. And if Heatran is going to try to beat Blissey, it's got to be with this Magma Storm set. This is a whole 22 as Blissey gets up rocks. So Fortress likely not carrying rocks then. And he manages to switch out. So I think that means, yeah, because Magma Storm traps. So yeah, that is a Shed Shell Blissey. So very smart on Hydra's part, anticipating that's the only way that Heatran is able to take on Blissey. And that's going to really stop Alec from being able to win with those special attackers that we said were his win cons. You know, the Mismagius, the Heatran, the Manectric, those were some of Alec's biggest threats, and the Shed Shell Bring on the Blissey is perfect for preventing that. And hard into the Gyarados on the Predicted Earth Power. Potentially a Toxic could have come out there as well, or a Taunt. And I think Toxic would have been the scariest thing there, but I think, yeah, obviously Earth Power or Taunt wouldn't really affect Gyarados too much in this situation. As he does go for the Dragon Dance, so this is pretty premature, and Crest with a Levitate does ignore the Toxic Spike. As he packs the Hidden Power Electric, so Alec, recognizing how scary the Gyarados is, how pivotal it's been to Hydra's success thus far in this tournament, packing the Hidden Power Electric. That's what I really like to see in these scenarios, these matchups, where, you know, people are going, you know, all in on this build. They want this win so badly, and they're really custom tailoring everything to these specific situations. So Hidden Power Electric still only does 47%, so this is probably a bulky Gyarados. I don't think we've seen if it has leftovers yet or not. Yeah, likely a bulky Gyarados, because I would imagine Alec would have EV'd Crest to 2-shot. No investment Gyarados. I would have imagined that would be a potential investment for him if he's not like fully physical defensive. And the Taunt getting revealed on Gyarados is also really interesting. I'm not sure what that would be intended for. Maybe to try to 1v1 Leafeon, or trying to prevent it from being toxic, I guess would be the more likely scenario. Still very interesting, and yeah, there is the leftovers on the Gyarados. See, opts for Ice Beam and freezes the Gyarados. Yeah, I mean, why does Ian say that? It makes a lot of sense, as I've talked about that. Interesting, so the previous turn, the Gyarados outsped the Crest. They're speed tying, it looks like, because the Crest was faster this turn. Fascinating. And he gets the freeze, which is unfortunate. Hidden Power Electric as the Blissey comes back. So yeah, some very favorable luck on Alec's side there. That's the most important mon to freeze too. So very nice. The Toxic Spike from Hydra doesn't affect any of the first 3 mons Alec's revealed. As Alec goes for the Wisp. So Blissey probably afraid of being tricked in that situation. Wisp is pretty nice neutral play. Catches the Fortress. That'll be some really nice chip on that. So he goes into Cloyster, which probably going to try to spin here, but he eats the Toxic Spike, which I think is probably the main reason that the Toxic Spike is out here, is for mons like this Cloyster, because the spinner is forced to take the poison, and so Cloyster won't be able to maintain itself to constantly remove all the hazards here. So probably a Rotom just going to come out here. I don't see any reason not to, as Alec predicts that and makes a double into the Umbreon. But I don't think Hydra really loses much from that. So Umbreon going to pursue, but you know, Umbreon's not the strongest mon, so that's only going to do 39, even with being super effective and the Rotom being withdrawn. So he's going to make another switch into the Gyarados as he wishes up. So we'll see if Alec tries to do this aggressively, as the Gyarados remains frozen solid. So again, luck in Alec's favor here. I'd expect him to try to hit this Rotom this time. Actually, he gets up a spike of his own. So that's interesting. I guess a good middle ground play there. I don't think it really got too much from going back into Umbreon here. And yeah, it's Rapid Spin, not Defog, so it's not like he's gonna get rid of his own hazards anytime soon. But yeah, that'll help chip down the Blissey, which we mentioned, really good against what Alec's got. In terms of what I think is left in the back, the Mon, I believe, was coming that has not been revealed yet is the Leafeon. I think that is likely in the last slot there with the Manectric being benched. And on Hydra's side, Flygon, Gallade, and Sceptile and Skuntank are all possible options. I think Hydra had a lot of good Mons in this matchup. If I had to guess, I'd think that with these Mons we've seen, probably not the Gallade. I would expect that the Gallade got benched based on what we've seen thus far. Though, who knows? In the way, because Hydras really like to bring out that Gallade early as an early breaker. So I would have expected him to maybe even have led with that if he did want to go with the Gallade option. But I think Sceptile actually would be really, really strong here. With the way that Hydra's team is built. Well, actually there is the Gallade, and yeah, Hydra does want to get that out, as we mentioned. That's really the role that Gallade's been performing from him. There's the Sword Stance that we mentioned. And Payback only going to do 51. As we mentioned, Foul Play non-existent in this generation, so Umbreon is really hard setup bait. So he goes hard into the Mismagius, predicting the close combat. But X-Scissor is an easy play from Hydra there. I mean, it covers the obvious, like, well, the Cresselia, which is like the main counter to Gallade on this team. Obviously, it obliterates Umbreon because it's super effective. And it does a lot more to Mismagius than the 0 damage close combat would have. So yeah, easy play from Hydra. And even the Shadow Sneak to pick up the Mismagius. So that is huge for the Dragon Dance Gyarados if it does manage to thaw out. Because what we thought might have been a Scarf Mismagius has just gone down. But the Manectric does get revealed, which is another potential Scarfer. That could definitely keep the Gyarados at bay. And Gallade is getting really weakened, especially with that Life Orb. Not a lot left in it, and it should be going down this turn. But the good news is that Shadow Sneak did a ton to it, and with all that hazard, Manectric, I think, can only come in one more time. It's only got one turn left in it. So here is the Flygon, so the Sceptile and Skuntank did get benched. Definitely makes sense that he would prefer these other Mons over the Skuntank. Had kind of a limited utility in this matchup. As he opts to preserve the Manectric, which reveals to me that he's valuing its ability to take on the Gyarados at a later stage. And this Flygon also likely potentially Choice Scarfed here because he's not fearing the HP Ice, maybe a Yachi Berry as well. And it does show the U-turn, so yeah, likely to be choiced. So the Cloyster, not really too highly valued. I guess it's kind of the least important Mon here. Now he's going to go into the Umbreon on Discharge. If he has Heal Bell, this is probably the turn to go for it, I'd imagine. Actually, he goes for Wish, and he's going to die to Toxic. But the good news is whatever comes in here is going to be at full HP at the end of this. But I don't know what Heatran's really doing in this matchup, considering that the ability set Dragon Pulse. Interesting. So this is a Magma Storm, Earth Power, Dragon Pulse, Heatran. So the other move's probably Toxic or potentially Taunt. But yeah, that's obviously teched for the Flygon. I don't even know if that does more damage than HP Ice would. No, probably not, because HP Ice is 70 base power. Maybe predicting the Yachi Berry. Yeah, very, very strange. So he opts for the Dragon Pulse again as the... What even... I'm sorry. So he went into the Gyarados, probably predicting Fire move, a Dragon Pulse for 27. And yeah, didn't think the risk reward was worth trying to thaw there, because Heatran revealed that actually could hit the Gyarados decently hard. And then he removes the Rotom, which is actually kind of big because now Alec could potentially get a spin-off with this Cloyster. And getting rid of these rocks will be useful because it means that Manectric can actually get 2 hits off then. See, real shuckaberry on the Heatran, and then explodes and crits on the Flygon. Well, I'm glad I got the explosion right from when we were talking about, yeah, obviously better than if you're not gonna have taunt or toxic. Like I feel like you kind of need those together for the trap reset. The explosion, as I did mention that as the likely Blissey bait set, but yeah, working really well there to trade with the Flygon. Which means I believe that Alec probably considers himself to be in a pretty decent position against the Gyarados. So I think he has spin coming out here. As we do see the spin as the Gyarados comes out. It's going to attempt to thaw once again. But this Cloyster is on a timer with that poison. He misses a Rock Blast, but the Gyarados has been frozen all game, so I think that's kind of deserved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He gets all 5 hits. Oh yeah, skill link, right? That's a thing. But yeah, it makes sense to tech on the Rock Blast because the Gyarados obviously puts a lot of pressure on Alec's team. But I do think that Hydra's actually still in a really strong position because the Blissey should be able to 1v1 both of these Pokemon, barring Toxic. But yep, here comes the Fortress, which is burned still, which is doing a lot of work for wearing this thing down. And the Manectric gets exploded on. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of if Crest has Toxic or not, and it doesn't, so I think it's going to lose. Yep. So that should be game. It looks like Alec did under prep for the Blissey. We mentioned how important Alec's special attackers were going to be in this game, from the Mismagius, the Heatran, and the Manectric, all 3 of them. And I mentioned potentially a trick set for the Manectric, trying to, not the Manectric, the Mismagius, to try to cripple this Blissey. But I don't know if Alec did bring that or not. But I think he definitely misplayed when he brought in the Mismagius on the X-Scissor from the Gallade. X-Scissor was a very obvious bring against the Crest and was clearly the best move in that position. No downsides to clicking it in that situation with the Umbreon in and doing more damage to both the Crest and the Mismagius than close combat would have. So if he did bring it, then he did misplay with his Mismagius. But regardless, yeah, the Heatran obviously missed that first Magma Storm on the Blissey. That probably would have tried to explode on it after that. That was his main way to try to deal with Blissey, but that seems to be all that he had in the tank. And if that's all he had, I think that he could not have afforded in this position here. Knowing what he has in the tank here, where he doesn't have Toxic on any of these Pokemon, and Blissey's at full health, I don't think you can afford to sacrifice your Heatran to the Flygon in this situation. I mean, I think, yeah, he has to try to go Crest here, probably, if not sacking his Cloyster, because from this position, once the Heatran goes down, he has absolutely no way of killing this Blissey whatsoever. So yeah, that's definitely a misplay on his part. If the Heatran's the only way to kill the Blissey, you need to use the Heatran to kill the Blissey. Simple as that. So yeah, this should be a game here. Gyarados does nothing, and Blissey wins. I'm sure Eon's very happy about that. Well, a bit of an anticlimactic ending to this game, but I think it was very interesting from a strategic point of view. I thought a lot of the prep was very interesting from both sides. Some good plays from both, but I think this was definitely a battle of the minds in terms of just what people brought to the table. The Shed Shell on the Blissey, definitely a standout. Obviously, yeah, made it so that the Magma Storm miss from the Heatran didn't even really matter too much at the end of the day. I guess he could have tried to explode on him that next turn instead of going for Magma Storm again. But Hydra obviously could have played a little bit more warily, knowing that the Heatran was teched for the Blissey, given the Magma Storm had been revealed. Some other cool techs. I really liked the The Shadow Sneak from the Gallade, really good job for trying to weaken and pick off the fast but frail Pokemon on Alec's team between the Mismagius and the Manectric. The Taunt was interesting from the Gyarados. Curious what it was for. Yeah, really for Hydra, I think it's just that the Toxic Spikes from the Fortress were really good for wearing down the Cloyster in particular, which was the spinner. And the Shed Shell on Blissey was perfect. I mean, he didn't really feel pressure to bring leftovers. And obviously, the trapping with the Heat Ram was the only plan Alec had for this Blissey. Barring if he did have like a Trick Scarf or something on Mismagius potentially. But yeah, well played from Hydra, and well played to Alec as well. Congratulations to Hydra for winning this tournament, and thank you all for tuning in. I'm looking forward to making more content. Have a good one.